Let us welcome the second speaker. The second speaker is Mr. Kosuke Sato. His speech title is Second, a Japanese Paradigm of the Society. Second, a Japanese Paradigm of the Society. So, Mr. Sato, please splash with word and splash your world.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, honorable judges, and questioner. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Honesty, bravery, loyalty. Samurais are often used to represent virtues of classic Japanese culture. Many of us still consider these moral codes as ideals, but could it be that some parts of samurai culture, which we still adhere to, actually cause detrimental effects on modern society? Recently, I had an opportunity to do some research on bullying and to talk to people who have been bullied. What intrigued me was to hear that many bullies try to ensure loyalty amongst themselves by attacking an anomaly who isn't a part of their group. This made me wonder, has bullying evolved into a byproduct of loyalty, one of the most important aspects of Japanese culture? Second is a word often used to contrast Japanese society with Western society. It is used to describe how Japanese people act in their communities. The doctrine of behaving in a second, to consider for the well-being of others, was fundamental to turning Japan into a country with some of the most humble and cooperative people in the world. We have passed this concept down from generation to generation, and it still remains strong in today's society. However, as soon as a community has been established, people try to maintain good relationship by excluding others from it. An example of this is bullying done by school-age kids who have only been exposed to a small aspect of second. Let me ask you a question here, but please keep the answer to yourself because this is a really personal question. Have you ever been socially excluded, like your friends ignoring you? According to the National Institute of Educational Policy Research, over 90% of children in Japan experience social exclusion between 4th grade and 10th grade. While most bullying in Western countries consists of physical or verbal attacks, Japanese students tend to hurt others through exclusion, a social attack. This style of bullying can make anyone a victim. Trying to stop it could make you the next victim. Even at such a young age, Japanese children are exposed to the ugly nature of second and are conditioned to follow the majority so as not to be separated. Because the strong unity which the culture of second brings, it can be exclusive and skeptical towards complete outsiders. The fear of people outside of the familiar community is what fuels the xenophobic nature of Japanese society, which is apparent from its long history and the current immigrant issues. Until the 19th century, Japan used to forbid foreign nationals from entering the country. In 2014, Japan accepted only 11 refugees out of 5,000 applicants, making it one of the least generous countries towards refugees. Although these immigrants might be harmless, many Japanese people are still afraid of a gaijin joining their community. Although conservatism is becoming the trend of politics on a global scale, more people need to be open-minded and learn not to be hostile towards foreigners if we want to successfully host the Olympics. Furthermore, people are reluctant to voice their opinion because they don't want to ruin the unity of a community by raising conflicting ideas. As people in Japan have lived in this world of second for a long time, they have managed to acquire a skill which no one else outside of Japan can perform. They have managed to read the air. Now, it's quite terrifying to imagine people reading from hiragana and katakana floating in the air. The truth is, it isn't that literal. It's a phrase to express that everyone else in the group thinks that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. It's like saying, look, it says in the air, that you should stay quiet and do nothing. I'm often told to read the air whenever I raise an opinion which conflicts with the majorities. But why should this be seen as inappropriate? As the French novelist Victor Hugo once said, there is one thing that is stronger than all the armies in the world, and that is an idea whose time has come. Raising opinions and sharing ideas allow us to gain a broader perspective on many things, and that is one of the key elements in the modern world, in which we come from different backgrounds and share different views. Something that is analogous to the Japanese culture of Seken is the Japanese education system. It values people who maintain the unity of a community by listening and compromising. Most of the classes are lecture-based, and the students do nothing but listen, study, and memorize. As a student who recently came back from studying overseas, I was quite surprised at the lack of involvement in the class. We very rarely hold discussions on the topics we're learning. Sure, they will learn how to listen, but will they learn how to express their opinions? In this world of 21st century, where society develops exponentially fast, these people will be the ones who obey, not the ones who lead. It is a matter of time before computers replace these people. Of course, it doesn't mean that we should totally abolish this culture. Humility and loyalty has always been the strength of Japanese people, and the culture of Seken definitely contributed to developing that morality. However, there are times when we need to change. This era of globalization and exponential development asks for openness. It asks for leadership. It asks for proactivity. Nowadays, the word samurai is used to refer to those people, those Japanese people, who strive towards success at an international level. However, these new generations of samurais need to have a new strength alongside the old. Remember, the traditional era of traditional samurais ended when fighting with swords and arrows became obsolete and ineffective. So, let's make a change before it's too late, because those who look only to the past or present are likely to miss the future. Thank you.
Now we have a question and answer session. Mr. Katayama, please.
Mr. Sato, stay harmonious with the rest of your community is one common frustration among returnees from overseas living. In most other countries, people appear more generous toward heterogeneous being or thoughts than in Japan. But as you recognize, some major countries are currently trying to rebalance from what they call a discomfort of excessive globalization back to their nationalistic society. The first question is, what, in your understanding, are primary causes or reasons for social bullying in the Western society?
I think this factor behind bullying in Western society, it's pretty much universal in all areas. It's just that in Western society, it's meant to be, it usually tends to be towards people who are less, I guess, in a way, more proficient in like sports or academic, or like even in some things like appearance or even family backgrounds. And that is universal thing. And no matter how much the society develops as a whole, I think that it is quite impossible to stop this, because it has been the nature of animals. However, I think this in contrast to Western society, people in Japan are somewhat inclined to ignore people, consider them as nothing. And that is that is rather, I guess, that turns into a bad cycle because the teachers can't recognize the kids being bullied. Unlike the Western society where people might look at someone being bullied and then like go in to intervene it. And then in contrast to Western society, Japanese bullies, like, it's really hard to stop because it's not like having a varsity football team player coming to tackle someone being beaten up. But instead, it's more that you have to recognize it first, which is a difficult thing. And then secondly, you have to stop it, which is even harder because you might be the target of the bullying next. So to put it short, the factors behind bullying in Western countries is somewhat similar to bullying all around the world, but the different things is that it's so much harder to stop it.
Thank you. Some quick question for the second. Have you found any particular point that you felt more comfortable living back in Japan as compared to your prior school life?
One of the most comfortable things, I think, being in Japan is that people around you are somewhat polite towards you. So like, say for example, in like a convenience store or even like in the streets where you forget your wallet, or because like I'm that type of person who tends to forget many things and like forgets to do a lot of things. But these people are really polite. Like all the people at the checkout in like convenience stores and stuff, they're so polite. And then every time you come in, they appear as welcoming. And I think that's one of the strongest things about Japanese communities, that they're polite, I guess. Well, this might be a wrong way to say it, but at least on a superficial level. So yeah, I think that's the comfortable thing being in Japan, is that they appear to you as polite, and if you accept it as being polite, then then you're fine with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kitayama. The Q&A session is over. Thank you, Mr. Sato. Please go back to your seat. Now, we will have a judging time.